This is a follow-up video to the demo of my newsletter parser. You should watch the first demo to understand how the spreadsheet works, but this is just a couple other things to know about the spreadsheet and how you can use it. The first thing is when you've copied the trades into the spreadsheet, there's a couple of values that get created for you that I didn't review in the first video. That includes the buying power that's consumed by making this trade based upon the number of shares and the entry price. And then this capital percent is the value of percentage of capital that would be used if you're risking 1% of your account. So to make that a little bit more clear, let's look at this one here. It's $632 based upon the number of shares and the entry price. It's a $50 risk. If you were risking $50, then a 1% risk that would make this a $5,000 account. If you're doing this off of a $5,000 account and you place this trade, it would consume about 12.5% of your capital percent. It's not 100% accurate, but it's close enough so that you can get an idea of whether or not a trade is going to consume a lot of your buying power. It comes in handy because, for example, even though this is a limit order and I go into the other video and tell you why you can't use this to copy paste into Thinkorswim, you could still look at it and say, oh wow, look, this is going to consume $2,600 of my buying power. That's about 50% of my account. Is this a trade I want to take, or do I want to adjust this trade so that I'm not consuming that much buying power? A lot of the time, Thinkorswim, at least for me, if I have a large order in place, even if it hasn't executed, it will tell me I'll run out of buying power if I try to add in another trade. So it's just something to keep in mind, and one of the things that I use this for when I'm placing the swing trades. The other thing is this is when OnMul provides a target, this is what his target R is going to be for the particular trade. I find this to be really handy because for sometimes he has very small targets. He'll explain that oftentimes in the weekly newsletter video, but sometimes you don't know what he's thinking of why he's picked a particular target. We can look at the chart and try to figure it out ourselves. But for the strategy that I use for exiting, I tend to shy away from anything that has a smaller target and therefore a smaller risk to reward. And so that's where you can use this particular value to decide whether or not you want to take a trade. Also showed how you can put a symbol over here. It'll come down here, find the first occurrence of that symbol, and then put the information up for you. This comes in handy because I'd shown in the other video, I set my own target at R3 for one that he didn't provide a target. It also creates, I shouldn't say it creates, it gets the stop alert and entry alert text from this column. So for each trade, a stop and entry text is created, and then what I do is I go ahead and I can copy that into an alert into Thinkorswim at whatever price point I want. Maybe I didn't actually enter the trade, and so I want to go ahead and have an entry that says that you didn't enter the trade, and you can do that by deleting this value here. So if you don't put a value here, the stop alert will say you did not place an order for this trade. If you put a value in here, it will tell you which account you had put an entry in, and then if you had not put a stop in, then this would be the time that you'd put the stop in, although I don't do that. But early on, sometimes when I was playing with different strategies, I would not place a stop immediately. Now that I've figured out how to do the first triggers OCO, I always place a stop whenever I put the trade in. And then the reason why I have this is maybe put the trade in E-Trade instead. So now the messages would tell you to do it for E-Trade as opposed to Thinkorswim. Obviously, you can't copy this into E-Trade. E-Trade doesn't have a copy-paste function, but you could still use the spreadsheet to do your analysis. And sometimes what I'll do, for example, is if it is a fairly high buying power one, I might use a different account for that particular swing trade, and then I can put the value in here. And when I get, I'll still put the alerts in Thinkorswim, but when I get the alert, it'll tell me, it will remind me which account it's in, so I don't have to go searching for it or trying to figure out what it is. It just makes it a little bit handier. I also, this one called drawing text creates a parsable value that I'll put it here in the scratch pad, that I use a auto hotkey macro that I wrote that will input the drawings for that particular trade or symbol. Let me pull up, I forgot which one we were looking at. We're looking at DHT, good. Are we on DHT? Nope, we're not on DHT. DHT. So all I have to do is place the cursor on Thinkorswim, and then I hit a function key on my computer, and what it does is it goes ahead and creates the drawings for this particular trade for me. So it gives me a visual representation of what the trade's going to look like. That was all done automatically. I hadn't been touching the keyboard. Now I can come back here and take a look at it, see where you know the stop is, where each of the R's is, maybe go into the day portion of it, which is actually a better place to do it. I should have created the drawings here, because then you'd be able to see it a little bit easier. But this is the entry, the stop. If we do this, you can get a little bit better idea. But it gives me an opportunity to review it on the chart with the different R levels. In fact, let's just do it for the trade, and then it'll help me decide, do I want to take this trade? How far does it have to get to? This one would actually have to break the high from the last 6 months in order to get to 3R. So is this a trade that I want to take? And that's basically how I use this. What I'll do is I'll take his input, I'll copy it into here, I'll put the symbol up here, I'll get the drawing text, I'll go take a look at the trade in Thinkorswim. I'll say, yeah, this looks like a pretty good trade. I think I'll go ahead and take it. I will copy this, come down here, paste, make sure I do first triggers OCO, hit confirm and send, and it places the order for me. I covered in the other one, I normally do 2 trades, and I would show you how, what I then would do is I would right click on here and create an alert. I'm not allowed to create alerts in virtual accounts, but I would come back to the spreadsheet, I copy the stop alert value, come back over to Thinkorswim, I'll show you what the text would be. It says, swing trade from newsletter has crossed stop value, had an order in place, and if it hasn't triggered, you need to cancel. And I should have changed that to TOS in my spreadsheet. But basically, I create the alert, put this text in there, and then I know to come back and cancel that trade in whatever account I happen to put it in. Now most of them go in Thinkorswim, but on occasion I'll put them in another account if they're a big dollar amount. I think that's it. I don't think there's. I talked about it a little bit in the other one. Let's say on this one you overrode the shares to 100, and you come down and you put in a different trade. The reason why I leave this red like that is because it didn't. This is not the proper number of shares. It's 100 shares, but if you look at it, you can also look at the risk amount and see, okay, wait a second, this is only supposed to be around $50. It's 1,000 risk. But that's why this is highlighted in red, so that you know that you had overridden it. All you have to do is delete it, and it will change it to the appropriate number of shares for you. Take this back to TOS. And I think that's about it. There's a how to use button that goes over most of this. Here's some of the different ways that you can use the copy paste for Thinkorswim in order to put trades in. And I think that's about it. Have fun with it. Again, use at your own risk. Share all you want. And we'll see you in the chat room.